Hey guys, I'm T and welcome to the channel. If you're new here, I make trendy and fun crochet tutorials twice a week, and if you haven't already, smash that like button, drop a comment down below, and subscribe to join in on the fun. Sundress season is finally upon us, and in this tutorial we're making one sure to brighten anyone's day using the star stitch. Speaking of, by now y'all already know the drill, but just in case you're new. Modern crochet tutorials and patterns made for stars just like you are here even more dropping twice weekly, so consider clicking the bell to subscribe and you'll never miss an upload. Also, do me a huge favor and give this video a big thumbs up if you like it, or 2 thumbs down if you don't. Either way, it's a great way to show support so I can keep putting out free tutorials every Wednesday and Sunday. Now, it's time to go on the show, so without further ado. For this project, any category 4 yarn will work, but I used a total of 500 grams of yarn. That's 1,125 yards if you're stateside. As for tools, a 5.5mm hook, scissors, stitch markers, and a tape measure. There is a written pattern down below. Use offer code TCDDIY for a discount off any $9.99 plus order, and enter this week's pattern giveaway by telling us a popular movie everyone has seen but you haven't. There is many, but I would have to say Lord of the Rings. Details for the giveaway down below. We're using 4 stitches for this project, and they'll be as follows. Chain, slip stitch, single crochet, half double crochet, and star stitch. This tutorial is made for a size small. You can adjust it for your size and explain how to in the video, so let's get started. Getting this top started, we're all going to grab our category 4 yarn and make a slip knot. Then we're all going to grab our 5.5mm hook and start off by making an odd number chain that starts 1 inch underneath our underarm down to our waist. I need roughly 5.5 inches or 14 centimeters, so I'm going to start by making a chain 21. And I already have this portion of my piece completed, so I'm just going to be doing a small sample size with you. Now that we have our chain, we're all going to get started on our first star stitch row. Start by blocking off that last chain. We're all going to do a chain 3. So there's 1, 2, 3. That last chain that we made is going to count as our turning chain, and we are going to be working into the following 2 chains. So what we're going to do is pull up 6 loops. Start by inserting our hook into that second chain from our hook. So bring your hook down. We're going to insert, pull through for 2 loops on our hook. Into that following chain, insert, pull through for 3 loops on our hook. Then into that following chain, which is the chain that we blocked off, insert, pull through for 4 loops on our hook. Into that following chain, insert, pull through for 5 loops on our hook, then into that following, yarn over, pull through for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 loops on our hook. Once we have all 6, we're going to yarn over and gently pull through all 6 of those loops. We want to make sure that we're not tugging through too tightly, otherwise the following row can be too tight to work into. And now that we have this first cluster, we're just going to yarn over and chain 1. Now that is our first star stitch for this row. Now we should so far have a total of 2 stitches, which is 1 and 2. Now that chain that we just did actually forms the eye of our star stitch. And now we're just going to continue on with our star stitch to reach the end of the row. Now to do the second star stitch, we're going to start by inserting our hook into the eye of our previous star stitch. So into that loop, insert, pull through. Again, we're going to pull up a total of 6 loops. So we're going to insert our hook into the last post from our previous star stitch. This is my star stitch right here. Into that last post that we have, we're going to insert, yarn over, and pull through for 3 loops on our hook. Then also insert your hook into the last stitch that our previous star stitch was worked into. So into that last stitch, pull through to get a total of 4 loops on our hook. Like I said, we need a total of 6, so just into that following chain, pull through, and again, following chain, pull through for a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 loops on our hook. Then from here, yarn over, pull through all 6 of these loops, and to complete our star stitch, we're always going to chain 1. So far, we should all have a total of 1, 2 star stitches for this row and a total of 4 stitches. There's 1, there's 2, 3, and 4. Let's do one more star stitch a little bit quicker. So remember, we need to pull up a total of 6 loops. Insert your hook into the eye of our previous star stitch, pull through. Underneath the last post of our previous star stitch, we're going to insert, pull through. Into the last stitch that our previous star stitch is worked into, we're going to insert our hook in through there, pull through, following, pull through, and following, pull through to get a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 loops on our hook. From here, yarn over, pull through all 6. Then all we're going to do is chain 1 to complete this star stitch, and we're going to continue on with this star stitch until we all have 2 chains left. We've made our way down with our star stitch, leaving the last 2 chains. Now we're going to do our last star stitch. It is going to start off the same way as our previous star stitches, so really quickly. Insert your hook into that eye of our previous star stitch, pull through. Underneath the last post from our previous star stitch, pull through. Into the last stitch that our previous star stitch was worked into, pull through. Now insert your hook into that following stitch, pull through, should have been our second to last, and into that following stitch, which should be our last, pull through for a total of 6 loops on our hook. From here, yarn over, pull through all 6, then chain 1 to complete this star stitch, and since this is the last star stitch for the row, we're just going to put 1 half double crochet into that same last stitch that our previous star stitch was worked into. And our first row is completed. Now traditionally our star stitch is 1 star stitch row and a single crochet row. We are going to be doing some increases and decreases, so I'm going to talk you guys through that as well. So to get started on the following row, chain 1 and flip. Now to do this single crochet row, we're going to start by doing a decrease of 2 single crochets into the top of that half double crochet from our previous row and into the eye from our previous star stitch. So inserting our hook into the top of the half double crochet, we're going to insert and pull through. Then finding the eye from our previous star stitch, we can tell that it's the eye because it is basically a perfect tiny little circle. We're going to insert our hook in through there, pull through for a total of 3 loops on our hook, then yarn over and pull through all 3. Now from here, we're going to put 2 single crochets into the eye of every star stitch. Now finding the eye from our next star stitch, we're going to make sure that we're not working into the tops of those bigger loops because that's not the texture that we want. So finding the eye, which is that perfect little circle, we're going to insert our hook in there with 2 single crochets. There's 1, into that same with a second. Again, finding the eye from our following star stitch, insert with 1, into that same eye with a second single crochet. And that's it. We're going to continue with 2 single crochets into the eye of every star stitch till we worked into the last eye. So we have made our way down and we have put 2 single crochets into every eye and we are worked into our last eye. Now as you guys can see, we kind of have this extra chunk right here. So what we're going to do, since we started off the row with a decrease and we want to end with the same amount of stitches as our previous row, into that last stitch from our previous row, we're going to do an increase of 2 singles. So into the top of that very last stitch, we're going to insert with 1 single, into that same stitch with a second. Now our row 2 is completed. We should still have the same amount of stitches as our previous row, therefore same amount of chains that we made. And just to keep track of our single crochet rows, insert a stitch marker into the beginning and into the end of this row. So now that our stitch markers are into place, we're all going to chain 2 and flip to get started on the following star stitch row. Now the first star stitch is going to be done a little bit differently. So what we're going to do is into the second chain from our hook, we're going to insert our hook in through just one of the loops, not the entire chain, because we are going to need to pull up a loop in that second loop as well. So just into that first loop from that second chain, we're going to insert, yarn over, and pull through to get 2 loops on our hook. Now into that same chain, we're going to insert our hook in through that other loop. It might be a little difficult, so you may need to separate it for yourself. we're going to insert, then yarn over and pull up a loop to get 3 loops on our hook. Then from here, into that following stitch, pull through, next stitch, pull through, and next, pull through, because again, we need a total of 6 loops on our hook. Then just like before, yarn over, pull through all 6, and chain 1 to complete this first star stitch, and that forms the eye. From here, we're going to continue to do our normal star stitches to reach the end of the row. So just do the next one a little bit quicker. Inserting our hook into the eye from our previous star stitch, we're going to insert, pull through. Into the last post from our previous star stitch, insert, pull through. Also into that last stitch that our previous star stitch was worked into, pull through, next stitch, pull through, and next stitch, pull through, for a total of 6 loops on our hook. Then yarn over, pull through all 6 loops, and chain 1 to complete that star stitch. Continue on with this star stitch, making our way all the way down, and I'll meet you back once we have completed our last star stitch. We are back and we have just completed our first 3 rows. Now we do want to make sure that we have the same amount of stitches as our previous row, so once we did our last star stitch, we should have all closed it off with just 1/2 double crochet into that same last stitch. Now to get started on our following row, which is a single crochet row, we're just going to increase along the end. So what we're going to do is chain 1 and flip our work. Now for the star stitch rows that do not start with a decrease, what we're going to do is simply put 1 single crochet into the first 1/2 double crochet and into that first eye. So insert your hook into the top of that 1/2 double crochet with 1 single crochet, then into the first eye that we have of the row, just 1 single crochet as well. Now for the rest of the eyes until we reach the end of the row, again, just like our previous single crochet row, 2 single crochets into each of those. So just to do the next, finding that following eye, insert with 1, same eye with a second, into that following eye with 1 single, with a second, and continue on with 2 single crochets into every eye until we're worked into our last eye. We are nearly completed with our row 4. We have just completed putting 2 single crochets into every eye until we're worked into the last one. Now, since we're doing an increase at the end of every row, and every row does need to end on an odd number of stitches, into that last stitch, which is this longer stitch right here, we're all going to do an increase of 3 single crochets. So into that last stitch with 1, same last stitch with a second, and same last stitch with a 3rd single crochet. And for this row, since we didn't start the row off with a decrease, I'm just going to insert a stitch marker into the end of this row. And at the end of our row 4, we should all have 2 more stitches than our previous rows. Now from here, it is going to be a repeat of rows 2 through 5 until we have a portion that can reach from mid-underarm all the way over to mid-chest. Now, like I said, that was just my sample size because I already have 1/2 of my front panel completed. Now, I just want to give you guys some tips before I let you guys go, but all we're going to do, like I said, from mid-underarm all the way over to mid-chest. Now, the way that we're working this piece, we are looking at the back currently. If we flip our work over, this is the front of our star stitches. We do want to make sure that we're inserting a stitch markers into the beginning and into the end of the single crochet rows where we start with a decrease and end with an increase. Then into that following single crochet row, just insert a stitch marker into the end because we're only doing an increase of 3 at the end of the row. We just want to make sure that we're doing that because the rows can look a little mushy once we get a few rows in, just so that we don't confuse the numbers. And I'll meet everyone back right after a star stitch row where the single crochet row right before started with a decrease and ended with an increase of 2. Then I'll meet everyone back to do our middle row. Now I did just flip my work over because this is the direction that we typically would work in, but just to let you guys know, I have a total of 15 rows. This width is just about 6 inches or 15 centimeters. Now we're all going to do our middle row, and that is just going to be a solid single crochet row, no increases, no decreases at all. So we're just going to chain 1 and flip. So to do our middle row, all we're going to do is put 1 single crochet into the top of the 1/2 double crochet from our previous row, 1 single crochet into that following eye from our previous row, Then, kind of like our previous single crochet rows, 2 single crochets into every eye until we're worked into the last eye. Then I will meet you back. We've made our way down with our middle row, putting 2 single crochets into every eye. Now, into that last available stitch, all we're going to do is simply put 1 single crochet into that last stitch. Now, we should end up with the same amount of stitches as our previous row, and since this is the middle row, we do want to make sure that we're inserting a stitch marker into the beginning and into the end of this middle row. And we do want to make sure that it is not the same color as our previous stitch markers, just because we're going to take those out but leave the middle stitch markers in later. So now that our middle row is complete and we have placed our stitch markers into the beginning and into the end of the row, our following row is going to be a normal star stitch row. So we're going to chain 2, flip our work, do our star stitches all the way down, and I'll meet you back at the end of that following row. So we are back. We have just completed our first star stitch row on the other side of our middle row. Now, because we want to mirror what we have over here, our following row is going to start with an increase of 2 single crochets. So we're all going to start with a chain 1 and a flip. Now the increase of 2 single crochets is going to be worked into the top of that half double crochet from our previous row. So into that first half double crochet, insert with 1, into the top of that same stitch with a second. Now from here, what we're going to do is, starting with our first eye, put 2 single crochets into every eye until we have the last eye and our last stitch left. So just do the first one into that first eye with 1, same first eye with a second, and I'll meet everyone back when we have 1 last eye left. We have made our way down with our single crochet row, and we should have all left our last eye and stitch. Now, since we started this row with an increase of 2 single crochets, we're now going to end this row with a decrease of 2 single crochets. So into that last eye, we're going to insert our hook, pull through, and also into the last stitch, insert, pull through to get 3 loops on our hook. From here, yarn over and pull through all 3, and now this single crochet row is completed. Now, since we started off the row with an increase and ended with a decrease, make sure we're inserting a stitch marker into the beginning and into the end of this row. Now for this single crochet row, we should all still have the same amount of stitches as our previous row. Our following row is going to be a star stitch row, so chain 2, flip our work, star stitch all the way down, then I'll meet you back at the end of that row. So we are back. Our following star stitch row is completed. Now we're going to do our following single crochet row that is going to end with a decrease only. So chain 1 and flip. So how we're going to do this row is start it off per usual. Into the first half double crochet from our previous row, insert with 1 single crochet. Into that first eye from our previous row, insert with just 1. Then from here, we're going to continue with 2 single crochets into every eye until we have just 1 eye left plus that last stitch. Then I will meet everyone back. So we've made our way down with our single crochet row. We have all left that last eye and our last stitch. Now we're going to close off the row with a decrease of 2 single crochets. So start by inserting your hook into that last eye, pull through, then also into that last stitch, and pull through. We should all have 3 loops on our hook, so yarn over and pull through all 3 of these loops. And we do want to make sure that we're inserting a stitch marker into the end of this row. Now from here, it is going to be a repeat of our 4 previous rows until we have the same amount of rows that we have on the other side of our middle row, not including that middle row. Once we have that completed, I'll meet everyone back, then we can get started on the back panel. So we are back. We have just completed the entirety of our front panel. Now my total width is just about 12 inches or 30 centimeters, that is unstretched. Now what we're going to do from here is make a second panel that is exactly the same. Once we have both panels completed, I'll meet everyone back so we can seam up the sides. So when both of our panels are completed, we are going to insert our hook into the bottom corner stitch of both the front and the back panel, making sure that our work is flipped wrong side out. So the front of the star stitches are faced each other. Then from here, we're going to pull our working yarn through. So yarn over, pull through everything, and do a chain up of 1 to secure, and we're going to do a single crochet seam. So finding that first stitch into the front panel, insert your hook, First stitch into the back panel, insert your hook, and single crochet around everything. Again, next stitch into the front panel, insert, next stitch into the back panel, insert, and single crochet everything together, and that's it. From here, we are going to continue to repeat single crocheting in through both panels until we don't have any more stitches left to work into. When we don't, do a chain up of 1 and cut, then repeat on the other side. So we are back. We have just completed seaming everything together. Now, what we're going to do from here is single crochet across the top of the entirety of our piece to prep for the neckline and the straps. So first things first, we're going to make sure the work is flipped right side out, meaning the seams that we just did are now along the inside. Then, single crocheting along the top, we're going to insert our hook into the stitch that's nearest to our side seam within the top portion. And we're going to start with 2 single crochets into every side star stitch row and 1 single crochet into every side single crochet row. So once we've inserted our hook, we're going to chain 1. Then finding our first side star stitch row, this is mine right here. I'm going to find that first top loop and insert with 2 single crochets. There's 1 into that same top loop with a second. Now into that following side row, which should be our side single crochet row, I'm going to find that top loop and insert with just 1 single crochet. Again, into our following side star stitch row, I'm going to find that top loop and insert with 2 single crochets. So there's 1, same top loop with a second. Then into our following side single crochet row, insert with just 1. We're going to continue doing this, making our way all the way up. Then I'll meet everyone back once we reach our middle single crochet row. So we've just made our way all the way up with our single crochet row, and we have reached our middle row. What we're going to do from here is an increase of 3 single crochets into the top of that single crochet row. So I'm going to take out the stitch marker, but don't put it away. And into the top of this side row, we're going to insert with 1, same top loop with a second, same top loop with a 3rd single crochet, and we want to make sure that we're inserting a stitch marker into that middle stitch so we know where the middle is. From here, continue to put 2 single crochet into every side star, 1 single crochet into every side single crochet row, and we're just going to make our way all the way around. Remembering that once we reach our middle row within the other panel, we are going to do an increase of 3 single crochets and insert our middle stitch marker stitch into there as well. Once we've made our way all the way around, I will meet everyone back. So we have just completed our single crochet row along the top. We're now going to do our strap. So first things first, we're going to make sure that our work is still flipped right side out, right side up. We're going to insert our hook into one of our middle stitch marker stitches, insert your yarn onto your hook, and pull through. Now working down towards the bottom, we're all going to start with a chain 1, and we're going to insert into that same stitch that our chain is in with a single crochet row, and our first single crochet is going to be worked into the same stitch that our chain is in. So into that same stitch, insert with 1 single crochet. And now working our way down towards our side seam, we're going to insert with 1 single crochet into every stitch for the width that we'd like for the strap to be. I'd like for mine to be just about 1 inch or 2 centimeters, so I'm going to start by doing a total of 5 single crochets, and remember that that's not counting that chain 1. Now that our first row is completed, we're going to do a back loop slip stitch row. So we're all going to chain 1 and flip our work. Now to do our back loop slip stitches, that's to give us some really nice ribbing and some stretch. We're going to find that last stitch from our previous row, insert into that back loop. When we have these 2 loops on our hook, we're all going to yarn over and gently pull through everything on our hook. Now we want to make sure that we're not tugging through too tightly, otherwise the following rows will be too tight to work into. Into that following stitch, insert into that back loop, yarn over, pull through everything, and continue with 1 back loop slip stitch into every stitch. We've just made our way down with our second row, and that is our back loop slip stitch row. From here, we're going to continue to chain 1, flip our work, and put 1 back loop slip stitch into every stitch again until we get a strap that can reach up and over our shoulder to our other panel's corner. Then I'll meet everyone back right after an even number row so we can seam it all together. And just as a really quick tip, this portion will form both the neckline and the armhole. So I would suggest to, after we seam, don't cut, but just in case you need to adjust the amount of rows and to ensure that everything can fit comfortably. Then once when you have the right amount of rows for both the straps, then I would cut. So I've just completed my back loop slip stitch rows for the length of my strap. I have a total of 42 rows, and that's just about 8 inches or 20 centimeters unstretched. Now we're going to seam it together. Now from here, we're going to do the same exact single crochet seam that we did for the sides. So we're just going to flip our work wrong side out. Then we're going to insert our hook into the top corner stitch, which is our stitch marker stitch on the other side, then our same single crochet seam. Once we have that completed, we're going to repeat the same thing on the other side. Then once we have both straps completed, I will meet everyone back. Alrighty, so we are back. We have just completed both of our straps, and now from here we're going to work on our top band. Now if this side looks a little funky, it's because I actually already have this one completed. I just wanted to show you guys how to get started on the other one without distracting you. So what we're going to do is first make sure that our work is flipped right side out, right side up. Then we're going to insert our hook into any side row that we have that's on the outside of our straps that we just completed for the height that we would like for the top band to be. Now, just like my strap, I'd like for mine to be just about 1 inch or 2 centimeters. So I'm going to insert my hook into the 5th side row from the bottom. So here is my first row, my second, third, fourth, and fifth. I'm just going to insert my hook into that side loop. Then we're going to single crochet down until we reach our single crochet row. So we're all going to pull our working yarn through and do a chain up of 1 just to secure. Now starting with that same side row that our chain 1 is in, we're going to insert with a single crochet. So insert with 1 single crochet, then 1 single crochet into every side row. This is my following side row, which is this divot right here. I'm going to find that top loop and insert with just 1 single crochet as well. We're going to continue with just 1 single crochet into every side row until we don't have any more side rows left to work into. Then I'll meet you back. We have just completed our single crochet row. Now we're going to connect it into the base, and the base is this single crochet row. So finding that first available stitch, this is mine right here. I'm going to insert my hook in through there, yarn over, and pull through everything with a slip stitch. Now that slip stitch into the base doesn't actually count as a stitch, that's just to connect. Then to work our way up to the following row, we are going to slip stitch up that following stitch into the base as well. So slip stitch into there. That slip stitch does not actually count as a stitch either. Now we're going to flip our work. And now that we have flipped our work, we're going to put 1 back loop slip stitch into every stitch. So starting with that first available stitch from our previous row, not working into any of those slip stitches into the base, we're going to insert into that back loop, yarn over, and gently pull through everything. And from here, continue with 1 back loop slip stitch into every stitch. Then at the end of the row, chain 1, flip our work, and put 1 back loop slip stitch into every stitch again. Then I'll meet you back at the end of our row 3. We have just completed our first 3 rows. Now from here, we're going to connect it into the base. So just into that next available stitch, insert with a slip stitch that is done the same way as our first row. Then to work our way up to the following row, slip stitch into that following stitch into the base, flip our work, and repeat. From here, we're going to continue to repeat these 2 previous rows until we don't have any more stitches left to work into. Then I'll meet you back so we can seam it into the other strap. Alrighty, so we are back and we have just completed the top band. Now we're going to seam it together. So we're going to start by making sure that our work is flipped wrong side out. So now that our work is flipped wrong side out, the next thing we're going to do is insert our hook into the same amount of side rows as stitches that we have. So for those of you that have my numbers, I have a total of 5 stitches here. So counting from the bottom, here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to insert my hook in through that side row and also in through my working yarn. We're now going to do a single crochet seam. So we're going to pull our working yarn through and do a chain up of 1 to secure. And making sure we're all working down towards our body, we're going to find that next side row within the strap, insert your hook into that top loop, then find that next available stitch into our top band, insert your hook in through there as well, and single crochet. Again, into the next side row within the strap, insert into that top loop, into that next stitch into the top band, insert your hook into that stitch, then single crochet around everything, and that's it. We're going to continue doing this until we don't have any more stitches left to work into. When we don't, do a chain up of 1 and cut, then repeat everything on the other side. So we are back and we have just completed both of our top bands. Now what we're going to do from here is our waistband. So let's make sure the work is now flipped right side out, right side up. We are then going to insert our hook into the stitch that's nearest to our side seam. And we're going to start with a single crochet row exactly the same way that we did the single crochet row along the top. So what we're going to do is put 2 single crochets into every side star, 1 single crochet into every side single crochet row. Once we reach our middle row, I will meet everyone back so that we can insert our stitch marker into there. So we've made our way all the way across to our middle row. Now, when we're working our middle row here, we're just going to be putting 1 single crochet into that middle row. So into that side row, insert into that top loop with just 1 single crochet, and make sure you're inserting your stitch marker into the top of that stitch. Now we should all have 1 middle stitch. And really quickly, we do need to separate the front and the back panel, so we want to make sure that we're inserting a stitch marker into that first single crochet that we made as well. What we're going to do from here is continue with 2 single crochets into every side star, 1 single crochet into every side single crochet row until we reach our following side seam. We just made our way all the way down to our following side seam. We should have the same amount of stitches on both sides of our middle stitch. Now from here, we're going to repeat what we did here on the other side. So just continue on with our single crochet row, putting 2 single crochets into every side star, 1 single crochet into every side single, making sure we're inserting a stitch marker into this first, into this last, and into the middle stitch that we have. Then I'll meet everyone back once when the single crochet row is complete. But just as a really quick tip, this single crochet row is going to be as wide as this portion can stretch, so once when it's completed, try your piece on. If it's a little too tight, redo some stitches with a looser grip, or if it's too loose, redo some stitches with a tighter grip, then I'll meet you back. We are back and we have just completed our single crochet row. We do want to make sure that all of our stitch markers are into place because it is going to be needed for the length of our dress. Now what we're going to do from here is a little waistband. So right after we slip stitch into that chain space, we're all going to make a chain the length that we like for the waistband to be. I'd like for mine to be just about 2 inches or 5 centimeters, so I'm going to start by making a chain 10. Then from here, I'm not going to bore you with the details. We're just going to do back loop slip stitch rows the same exact way that we did the top band. Now, once we have made our way all the way around, I'll meet everyone back so we can seam it all together. But we do want to make sure that we're inserting our stitch markers into the same side rows once we reach them, because we are going to need to know where the front and the back and the increases and the decreases are going to be. So go ahead and get the waistband completed, then I'll meet you back. So we are back. We have made our way all the way around with our back loop slip stitch waistband. Now from here, we're going to seam it up doing an outside loop slip stitch seam. So we're going to start by making sure that our work is flipped right side out. Then we're going to insert our hook into the corner stitch of both the front and the back panel, yarn over, and pull through everything on our hook. Now to do our first outside loop slip stitch seam, we're going to find that first available stitch. Insert your hook into that front loop only, or the loop that's nearest to us. Then insert your hook into that first stitch into the back panel, only inserting into that back loop. When we have these 3 loops on our hook, yarn over, and pull through all 3 of these loops. Let's do this again. Into that next stitch into the front panel, insert only into that front loop. Next stitch into the back panel, insert only into that back loop. Yarn over, pull through everything on our hook, and continue doing this until we don't have any more stitches left to work into. When we don't, do a chain up of 1 and cut, then I'll meet you back. We have just completed seaming up our waistband. Now from here, we're going to do another single crochet row. Then we can get started on the length of the dress portion. So first things first, making sure that our work is still flipped right side out, right side up. Insert your hook into one of our side stitch marker stitches. I just inserted my hook into my stitch marker stitch that's nearest to my seam. Then I'm going to pull through and do a chain up of 1 just to secure. Then from here, simply put 1 single crochet into every side row. So just to do the first one, find that top loop, insert with 1 single crochet. Our first single crochet should be the one that our chain 1 is in. Then for the single crochet row, we do want to make sure that we're still inserting our stitch markers into the tops of these stitches so we know where the sides and the middle are. Then from here, we're just going to continue with 1 single crochet into every side row, making sure that we are inserting our stitch markers into the same stitches, making our way all the way around. We should end up with the same amount of stitches as rows that we have for the waistband. Once we have that, I will meet you back. So we are back. We have just completed our single crochet row along the bottom. Now from here, before we get started on the actual length of our dress, I know this looks a little crazy, but what we're going to do from our first stitch marker on the side is insert a stitch marker into every 3rd stitch until we reach our middle stitch marker stitch. We're doing this just so that we can keep track of which rows we're going to need to increase into. So just to show you guys, this is my first side stitch marker stitch because this is my side seam for my waistband. We're going to start by counting that as 1, 2, insert a stitch marker. Then count 1, 2, insert a stitch marker, 1, 2, insert a stitch marker, and just continue doing that until we reach our middle stitch marker stitch. Now we have to do this on the other side of our middle stitch and the back side as well. But I don't really like hearing the stitch markers clanking around, so I'll insert my other stitch markers once when I reach my middle stitch, but feel free to do your other side now if you guys would like. Now our hook should be near this first side stitch marker stitch. What we're going to do from here is make an odd number chain the length that we'd like for the dress portion to be. Now you can make this as short or as long as you'd like. I'd like for mine to be at mid-thigh, so I'm going to start by making a chain of 51, and that's going to be 12 inches or 30 centimeters. Now that we have our chain, we're going to do our star stitch row. So since we already know how to do this, I'm just going to do the first one with you really quickly. Start by blocking out that last chain and do a chain 3. That chain 3 doesn't count as a stitch. That is our turning chain. Then start by inserting your hook into that second chain from our hook, pull through, into that following chain, pull through, following, pull through, following, pull through, and following as well. Pull through for a total of 6 loops on our hook, then yarn over, pull through all 6, chain 1 to complete our star stitch. From here, continue to do our normal star stitches, making our way all the way down to reach the end of the row. So we just made our way all the way down with our first star stitch row, remembering that that last star stitch is closed off with just 1/2 double crochet into that last stitch. Now what we're going to do is slip stitch into that following stitch into the base, which should be our stitch marker stitch. And we also want to make sure that we're working clockwise because our star stitch isn't reversible. So into that stitch marker stitch, we're going to insert with a slip stitch. I am going to take out the stitch marker because we don't need it anymore. So insert, pull through everything on our hook, and now our row 1 is connected. Now in order to work our way up to the following row, we're going to slip stitch into that following stitch into the base. And now our following row is going to be a single crochet row, so flip our work. Now this single crochet row is going to be basically the same single crochet row that we did for the middle row for the body, so no increases, no decreases. We're going to start with 1 single crochet into the top of the 1/2 double crochet from our previous row, so not working into any of those slip stitches. Insert with 1 single crochet. Into that following eye, insert with just 1 single crochet as well. Then from here, 2 single crochets into every eye until we're worked into our last eye. We've just made our way down with our row 2. We should have put 2 single crochets into that last eye and just make sure we end with the same amount of stitches as chains that we made. We're going to insert our hook into the top of that last stitch as well with just 1 single crochet. Now from here, we're going to do our following star stitch row. So chain 2, flip our work, and we're going to do our normal star stitches all the way back up. Then I'll meet you back at the end of our row 3. We have just made our way down with our 3rd row. Now we're going to connect it into the base. Now connecting it into the base is going to be a little bit differently because we do want this to ruffle up along the top. So what we're going to do is slip stitch into that same stitch that our previous row is worked out of. So into this stitch, it will be occupied. We're going to insert with a slip stitch, and now this odd number row is completed. So basically we just have 2 rows worked into 1 stitch. Now our following row is going to be a single crochet row, but since we're working up to this following row, which is our stitch marker stitch, we're going to start that single crochet row off with an increase. So to work our way up to the following row, slip stitch into that following stitch, into the base, still doesn't count as a stitch, and flip our work. Now starting the row off with an increase, we're going to start by inserting 3 single crochets into the top of that 1/2 double crochet from our previous row. So making sure we're not working into any of those slip stitches, we're going to insert our hook into the top of that 1/2 double crochet with 1, with 2, and with 3. Then from here, we're going to start with 1 single crochet into that first eye. That is per usual. Then from here, we're going to be putting 2 single crochets into every eye, making our way all the way down to reach the end of the row. So we are back. We have just completed our increase single crochet row. Now from here, we're going to do our same star stitch and single crochet row with no increases, no decreases, making sure that we're connecting it into the base the same way that we did our previous rows. Then once we're worked into our stitch marker stitch, it is going to be this same single crochet increase row. And we're just going to continue on with that until we're worked into the stitch before our middle stitch marker stitch. So we are back. We have just made our way all the way up until we worked into the stitch right before our middle stitch marker stitch. Now I went ahead and inserted my stitch markers into the other side of the front of my dress as well. And that was inserted the same exact way that we did on this side as well. Now from here, we're going to work past our middle stitch marker stitch. Then I'll meet everyone back right before we're about to get started on our following stitch marker stitch. So now that we can do decreases into the single crochet rows. We have just worked past our middle row. I worked into my stitch that's right before my following stitch marker stitch. Now we're going to do our decrease together. Now we should be worked into the base because we all have an even and odd number row worked into the same stitch. And now we need to work our way up to the following row, which is our stitch marker stitch. So slip stitch into that following stitch, yarn over, pull through everything. That is per usual. Then we're going to flip our work. Then to do our decrease row, we're going to start with a decrease of 2 single crochets. So into the top of the half double crochet from our previous row, we're going to insert, pull through, into the top of the first eye from our previous row as well. We're going to insert and pull through, and we should have 3 loops on our hook. So we're going to yarn over, pull through all 3 of these loops. Then into that following eye, we're going to insert with just 1 single crochet, and that is going to be how we do our decrease. Then from here, from the following eye all the way down is going to be per usual. So put 2 single crochets into every eye, then into the top of the last stitch from our previous row, 1 single crochet. Now at the end of this row, which is our first decrease row, we should have 2 less stitches than our previous row. Then I'll meet you back. So we've just made our way down with our first decrease row. From here, we're going to continue to repeat our single crochet and star stitch row the same way that we do our non-increase, non-decrease rows until we reach our following stitch marker stitch. Then we're going to do the same decrease row that we just did together. Then we're just going to continue to repeat these rows all the way down until we reach our side stitch marker stitch. So we are back and we have just completed the first half of the dress portion. Now all we're going to do from here, working along the back, is the same exact thing that we did for the front. So go ahead and insert your stitch markers. Then we're going to be increasing into the same rows. Then on the other side with decreases. Once we made our way all the way across, repeating everything, I'll meet everyone back to seam it all together. So we are back. We have just completed the entirety of the dress portion. Now from here, we're going to seam it up. So this seam is actually going to be done exactly the same way that we did for the sides. So just to talk you guys through it, we're going to make sure that our work is flipped wrong side out, then do our same exact single crochet seam so we don't have any more stitches left to work into. When we don't, do a chain up of 1 and cut. And now that everything is all seamed up, the last thing we have to do is just weave in all of our ends. And there you have it. Hope y'all enjoyed the tutorial. Join us on Instagram, Pinterest, or Twitter. Those links are down below. And don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Catch you on the next one. Bye.